The patient man had been waiting for 20 minutes now. There was a low, constant noise. He kept feeling it thump on the back of his seat. The fact that he wasn't going to stop was evident. A gleam of excitement radiated from Brad and Kimberly's eyes as they boarded the flight from Florida to New Jersey. The 2-hour trip was a mere blip on their travel radar. While flying from Florida to New Jersey, the sun hung low in the sky. It was a much-needed vacation and excitement buzzed through the air. It was fortunate that the couple was able to get seats together in their prescribed seats. There was a full flight and everyone was anxious to reach their destination. Although they were looking forward to their 2-week vacation, things did not go according to plan. An unruly child sat behind them, making things difficult for them. Then there was a restless child behind Brad, a bundle of energy barely contained within the seatbelt's boundaries. Disruptions were caused by his loud talking. Brad began receiving rhythmic thumping against his seat, erratic kicks from a child with boundless energy and no restraint. As a person known for having a short temper, he wasn't going to let a kid ruin his flight. As Brad lowered his head, he cleared his throat. "Would it be possible for you to ask your child to stop kicking my seat?" She said dismissively. "He's just a kid. Let him have fun." Astonished by the response, Brad was taken aback. Kimberly smiled sympathetically, trying to diffuse the situation with a perplexed glance. Brad didn't feel that he had a choice. The mother, Brenda, could have asked him to stop, but for some reason, she decided not to. Brad took it personally. As minutes turned into an hour, the tension on the plane escalated. Passengers shifted in their seats, sharing knowing glances as the battle of wills unfolded in the rows ahead. "Listen, champ," he began, his voice now tinged with a hint of urgency. "We're about to land, and it's really important that you stop kicking the seat. Can you help us all out and give it a rest?" The child's gaze wavered, caught between the allure of rebellion and the gravity of the situation. The cabin filled with an expectant hush as Alex's decision hung in the air. Brenda threw down her magazine and stood up from her seat. "How dare you speak to my son?" she screamed. Brad was shocked, but he didn't back down. "Excuse me," Brad said, his tone polite. "Could you please ask your child to stop kicking my seat?" Brenda looked up, her eyes narrowing. "Mind your own business," she retorted sharply, returning to her book as if dismissing his presence entirely. The other passengers had noticed the commotion by now. The noise Alex was making was affecting everybody, but nobody else directly addressed Brenda. They just recorded it on their phones. Would another flyer help Brad out? After several failed attempts to find solace, Brad turned around once more, his patience thinning. Maybe if he tried to be friends with the child, he would be nice. "Hey buddy, do you think you could give my seat a break? I'd really appreciate it." The rude woman snapped her head in their direction, her eyes narrowing on the couple. "Excuse me, how many more times do I have to tell you to leave my son alone? I will have you reported for harassment." Kimberly had enough as she turned around and said, "Please control your child. You're speaking very rudely to us. We asked you nicely so many times." Mother was seeing red. No one was allowed to speak to her or her son like that, and she was ready for war. "Alex, honey, have as much fun as you want. We all know how boring it is to be a kid on a plane." Brad was at his limit. He had something in his carry-on bag for situations like this. The little boy and his mother wouldn't be laughing anymore once he showed them what he had in store for them. He had already tried confronting him a few times by now, and the boy was conditioned not to care. But this time was different. He showed the boy what he had in his hand and then put a finger to his lips. The boy sat frozen in place as soon as he saw what Brad was holding in his hand. He wasn't kicking his chair anymore now that he knew what Brad was up to. Brad gestured for the boy to keep quiet. The boy nodded his head in agreement and kept staring at the object in Brad's hand. He was fixated on it. Brad returned to facing forward and sighed. He waited now to see if the boy would keep his promise or not. But what had he given him? The object that he had given the boy was something special. It was Brad's favorite treat, the imported chocolate from Belgium. He heard the boy behind him ravaging the wrapper and eating the chocolate. The whole time the boy ate the candy, he wasn't bothering Brad. He even almost managed to doze off for a bit. The peace and tranquility he felt now that there were no tremors from behind was magnificent. But then it started again, and Brad's eyes opened wide. The kicks were light and less aggressive. Was he really doing it absent-mindedly? Maybe he couldn't help it. Then a realization dawned on him. Was he just hungry and couldn't sit still? He wouldn't have been surprised if the nasty mother didn't feed him properly. The people around them began whispering among themselves. One woman even spoke loudly, not caring if Brenda heard. "That woman cannot control her child." "How embarrassing," she said, causing a few people to start laughing. Waving her hand in front of Brenda's face, Kimberly was ready to put an end to this. "If you don't control your child right now, I will call over a flight hostess," she threatened. At that moment, another passenger piped up and said, "Control you, kid lady." He's been making noise through the whole flight. There was a murmur of agreement from the other passengers who had enough. Just as the situation seemed ready to spiral out of control, a ray of hope appeared in the form of an air hostess. She stopped on Brenda's aisle and said, "Do we have a problem here?" With an air of authority, she approached the row and looked at the child sternly. "Young man, you need to stop kicking the seat immediately." The child's defiance wavered in the face of the air hostess's command. With a reluctant huff, he slumped back into his seat, his legs finally still. Brenda, unable to challenge the authority of the airline staff, begrudgingly sank into her seat, her anger simmering beneath a facade of compliance. She was in the wrong. The cabin breathed a collective sigh of relief as the atmosphere shifted from hostility to a subdued calm.